Okay. So we just had a bit of a glitch with our technology. So it is raining here in Australia, and I am on satellite. So we are dropping in and out. So hopefully we are going to get through this. So my apologies if we drop out. We're going to just keep going. So it is Peter here from Strong Healthy Women, and welcome to the Success Stories series. And I'm here with the lovely Leslie Davis. Hey, Leslie, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you doing, Peter? I saw you earlier out in the rain. Oh my gosh, I was jealous. I was jealous that I wasn't out there dancing around with you.
Okay, we are back, and I have changed network connections. So, okay, take three. Hey, everybody, it is Peter here from Strong Healthy Women, and welcome to the Success Stories series. And I am here. Goodness, can you hear me, Leslie?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So I've changed network connections. We've got three going on. So hopefully we will be able to get through it, but we are getting very choppy. So, but you are very clear it's me who's choppy, and it's about your story. So that's what's important here.
Okay.
So, Leslie, you are 64 this August.
That's right.
Yes, that's very exciting.
It is.
So, how
Actually,
did
it
you
is.
feel? Yeah, it is exciting. How did you feel moving into your 60s,
Well,
moving out of the
actually,
50s to 60s?
moving into my 60s was actually very, very scary. And the reason is our mother died when she was 49. So we had all of us, my sisters and I, had all had great anticipation and trepidation about moving into our 50s. But then when 60 rolled around, I had no idea what it looked like. So I was terrified, absolutely terrified, because I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. Um, so I threw myself a ginormous party, invited all the people who were important to me, and had a big celebration. And since then, I've just kept moving forward.
Okay, so we are up to you throwing yourself a big party.
Yes, yes, I threw myself a big party because I said, you know what, if I'm going to step off into this unknown, I'm going to do it in style, I'm going to do it fearlessly, and I am not accepting that 60 years old is the end. And it was then I decided I'm going to live to be 153 years old, and one day, because I'm going to celebrate all 153 24 hours of that birthday, and then I will at 12:01 the next day, then I'll go on to the next place. But that was when I decided, there's a whole lot more to this life, and it's up
There
to
is.
me
And
to
so,
keep moving.
yeah. And was 60 the pivotal moment for you when you decided to make these changes, or what?
Well, the pivotal moment actually happened 2 years prior to that. Our father
Yes.
had died, and so that that sent the family into kind of another tailspin thing. And at the same time, my oldest son and his wife stopped talking to me, and they were expecting a baby. And so I was sent into a wash, rinse, repeat cycle because my own mother had died 2 weeks before my oldest child, who was about to have the baby, was born. And I was, just really like so many other people, you hit a moment where you make a choice and you don't realize you're making a choice until you look back. And I hit that moment where I had to make some decisions. And I think, is it the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result?
Yes.
And that's what I realized I was doing. And I said, I don't want to keep getting the same result. So I took a really hard look at my personal self and said, where do you want to be when you are 80 years old? I hadn't moved to the 153 yet, but I knew I didn't want to be 153 years old, sitting in my rocker on my front porch saying, I wish I would have. I knew that. And I recognized also the only person I can do anything about is me. I can't do anything about anyone else. So I needed to start taking personal responsibility. And then I had to say to myself, well, what does that look like? Well, it looked like being the best healthy version of myself, and healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so that was when I started cleaning up my act. I figured out, how to eat. I did a lot of the mental work. I started getting stronger emotionally. And in my book, You Can't Eat Love, I talk about, I discovered that I had a myself-sized hole in my heart. The one person that wasn't loving me was me. And so I had to learn to love myself. And through that process, I changed, the whole relationship with food, and losing the weight became easy because I wasn't trying to fill an emptiness. But anyway, long story short, that was the pivotal moment when I had to really assess, is this the way I want to be, or do I want to be the best version of me that I can possibly be? So when I got to my 60th birthday, I said, you know what? This life is beginning here. Our mother had a sticker that said life begins at 50. Well, she died at 49. So I said, you know what? My life is going to begin at 60. And that's kind of the way that I've gone at it. Just because we are 60 or in our 60s doesn't mean life is over. Hang it up. You can't do anything.
No, definitely not. That's for sure. When I look back at, how my grandparents were at those younger ages, like even younger than what I am now, they seem to be so much older than what we are. And I think that information available to us, and that and I think as for us as women, I believe that when we move into these mid years of our lives, we do start, who am I? Why am I here? What's important to me? And we become more self-aware. And it's when we start asking those big questions as well. Like, what do I want for myself? Do I actually love myself? And I know for me personally, I think my middle name was I'm not good enough. And, I'm not worthy of love. So I totally get where you're coming from. And really, that comes down to a lot of things that have gone on in our early. And we cling on to those beliefs And we think that that's just the way it is, but it doesn't. As you've just said, it doesn't have to be at all. We can totally make those changes. And so you started finding yourself more, and through doing that, you discovered you were eating for your own emotional well-being, to love yourself. Is that what was happening with?
Well, food started taking a different position in my life, where I started eating as fuel instead of trying to stuff down what I was feeling. And along the way, I learned some tricks that work for me. So, for example, when I feel sad or anxious or angry, I don't know about you, but a lot of times I would be afraid to let those things out. And as a very wise friend of mine said once, they will come out sideways. So once I started learning to acknowledge, okay, right now you're feeling sad. Why are you feeling sad? And have those conversations. Then the craving or whatever, the hunting, the going through the pantry looking for something would subside. But if it didn't subside, I learned that if I will grab for protein, so I always keep good protein drinks on hand, or I keep, lean meat on hand. If I can grab the protein and eat that or drink that, it'll calm down that hunting. And people ask me, well, why does that work? And I say, well, there's Leslie science. in my world of Leslie science, cortisol is being released when your body goes under stress, so that fight or flight. Cortisol, if you go back to chemistry, ends in OL, so that's an alcohol. And how do you make alcohol? You make alcohol from sugar. So in order for your body to make more cortisol, remember this is Leslie science. So in order for your body to make more alcohol, you need to put sugar in so your body can convert. Well, protein binds to that sugar and it'll calm that down. So it stops that engine from driving. So once I figured that part out and started, naming the emotions and not being afraid of them, it all fell into place. And it feels better, and I'm taking better care of myself, because I can't speak for you, but you're around the same generation, and a lot of the other people who are watching are also. We are taught that we don't belong first. We are taught that we belong way back there. Wherever last is, that's where we belong. And I came to the realization, the people on the airplane, they tell you, put your own oxygen mask on first. And you have 30 seconds to do that. But that's not what we are taught. So I had to, as you were speaking about beliefs, I had to unlearn a lot of beliefs. The belief that I did not deserve to be first. The belief that I need to be at the back of the line. The belief that everybody else needs theirs first. When the truth of the matter is, if we stop and think about it, if we don't put our own oxygen mask on first, we're going to be laid out in the aisle, and then we're of no use to anyone.
I'm trying to create a movement because I really want women in particular to know that you have to put yourself first. There's no question, there's no doubt about it. You have to put yourself first. And I've made it my mission to start with my younger generation, my grandkids or my grandkids, so it is reinforcing for the boys and the girls that you are all strong. You all have to put yourself first. Now, kids know how to do that instinctively. They do it automatically, don't they? Yeah. But what happens is that when life starts to occur, we find all of the other things that we need to do for everybody else. You think about it, you go to high school and all you want to do is fit in with the in crowd. Now, I don't know about into with the in crowd whatsoever. And what I've come to learn over the years is I just needed to embrace who I was, because and I love that out of what is it? Miss Congeniality 2, Sandra Bullock. Yes, people love people who put people people first, So, or that's not the exact quote, but I do love that, because we do to go into that in a little bit more detail. I mean, protein is one of those things that makes you feel full. So, and so with that protein, when you're having that, you can actually eat less of it as well too, which is really interesting. So I know I often make up these big stews, and you look at the bowl that you put out, and there's only a small amount in there, but you only need a small amount, and you feel totally full afterwards. So yeah, I like that. On hand. Good piece of advice, Leslie. What other tip have you got there? What other piece of Leslie science is tucked away?
Well, the other thing that I discovered is when those crazy thoughts start happening, if I can just get a piece of paper and a pen and write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And I don't have to write them down all at one time, but focus on writing down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And if I'm having a really, really bad day, it may take me 8 hours to write down 10 things. But it really does flip a switch inside of our mind. And I'm not saying to ignore whatever it is that's causing you that anxiety, that grief, that sadness. What I am saying is try to get the hamsters off the wheels, to stop spinning inside your head, so that you can really focus and hear what it is you're trying to say. But coming up with 10 things that you're grateful for will help calm down that sugar craving. They'll help calm down that hunting. But additionally, it will help you really zero in on what is causing you to feel that. And there's nothing wrong with feeling. I'm not advocating don't feel. I'm advocating feel, don't be afraid. But if it's too much, do something so that you can redirect those hamsters.
Yeah, it's like one of the things I talk about, which is mindless eating. For many of us, of an evening, we sit down and we watch TV, and we just automatically, have the chocolate or the bag of chips. After night after night after night, then what happens is then ingrained. It's become a habit for us. Whereas something as simple as occupying your hands, so crocheting, knitting, reading a book, or anything like that, or painting your nails, when you start to occupy your hand, you change that focus of where you're at right then and there and move it to something else.
Well, and at the same time, and at the same time, when you're trying to do that, one of the things that I started doing is, if I had, for example, not getting into the ice cream or the cookies after dinner, I would write that down as a goal, but I would write it down as, after dinner, pick up your book and start reading it, or after dinner, work a Sudoku puzzle, so that it's phrased in a positive way. And then I would say, okay, when you have done this 3 days in a row, you get a sticker. Now that sounds crazy, but our brains like rewards.
Yes, they do.
And it doesn't have to be big. And I hardly ever make my rewards food related. But the more we reward, the more we celebrate, the easier it is for us to continue the behavior. And the most brilliant book that I've read about this is called Don't Shoot the Dog. And it's about animal training. And aren't we animals?
Yes.
And what they do to train the animals for SeaWorld is they reinforce the habits that they want them, the behavior that they want them to perform, and they ignore the behavior that they don't want them to do. So how does that work for you? Well, you decide that you're going to do something after dinner, whatever it is. And so you accomplish that and you go, look at me, look what I did. Yay. And then maybe, a couple of nights later, you go ahead and you have the ice cream. You don't shame, you don't blame, you don't should, you don't would, you don't could. You do nothing other than clean up the dishes and say, oh, well, and move on. Because we don't want to be ingraining what we don't want to be doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I'm thinking back to childhood there, and so how many kids go into the paddy and throw a tantrum when they're not getting their own way. And so and I've always tended to use that art of distraction, walk away from the situation, as opposed to as something that's acceptable, that if you throw a patty, you get your own way. And it's the same thing. What you're doing here is you're taking that behavior of rewarding yourself, even if it is a sticker, it doesn't matter what it is, of celebrating those wins that you're having, those small wins. And really, it is all about, when you're trying to make lifestyle changes, step. And so for you, what was that first step? Can you recall that? What was that very first thing that you did?
The very first thing that I did was I decided that I wanted to be the best version of me, and how I was going to get there was find a food program that was going to teach me what I did not learn growing up, which is, portions, and that I could live with and not feel shamed all the time. So the first step that I took was I got to Weight Watchers, because it was the easiest, most affordable program. And it could teach me about portions, and I wasn't going to feel shamed, because that was really critical, that I not feel shamed. So that was the first step that I did. And it was scary taking that step, because I was convinced when I started that I was going to fail.
Okay. Take us through that, Leslie. How did you overcome that fear?
Well, I realized that my desire, and I think that there's a saying or a phrase, my desire to be different from where I was stronger than the pain of staying where I was. And so even though I was convinced I was going to fail, because I had failed so many times before, even though I was convinced I was going to fail, I was determined to keep moving forward, because I did not want to remain where I was. The pain of being there was just so horrific. So what I did was just take, little steps. And that was when I learned, how to celebrate the little tiny things. And when I tell people about it, they're like, you're crazy. For example, a little tiny thing, going to McDonald's and just driving away with just a Diet Coke and nothing else, I would celebrate. Getting, one portion of, whatever I measured out, and not sneaking more in, I would celebrate. And, I started playing mind games with myself. And then I heard, which I don't know if you've heard this, the word fail stands for first attempt in learning. And once I started telling myself that, you're not going to fail, you're learning. This is your first try, you're learning. Just keep learning, keep moving, keep going forward. And so I tricked myself, 1 pound at a time, one meal at a time, one measuring cup at a time, one scale at a time. I tricked myself until, the engine started moving a little bit faster, and 50 pounds were gone. And I was like, oh, okay, we can do this. We can do this.
So was it when you got to that 50-pound mark that milestone for you?
Well, the 50 pounds, I knew that I had about 100 pounds to lose. And when I got to 50, it was like, okay, you've done this. Look, it's like you're on a long trip. You live in Australia. I live in Texas. Australia is a whole lot bigger than Texas. But we measure in hours. We don't measure in miles. So when you look, sometimes on a trip, like from here to El Paso, which is about 800 miles, sometimes the only way to make that trip is to look how far you've come so that you can make it the rest of the way. And that's kind of what the 50-pound mark was for me. Look how far you've come. You can do this. You can make it the rest of the way.
Yeah. There's so much in what you said. I do like that quote that you were thinking of earlier. That was the Tony Robbins quote. And it's where it's that to make that change, if it's comfortable staying as you are, it's all about the fear. And I love that fail, because it's so true. It is just about learning. Life is about learning. And so we get so scared that we can't attempt something different that we just don't even try anymore. It's like, I think about my mum who, basically doesn't go outside of her doors except for on the days that I go there. She stays inside, and she's got these days of the week where she'll do a washing, and she's just got ingrained into this routine, but is scared to do anything else. If someone says, hey, come do this, she goes, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. And that living, more importantly. Okay, I think I'm back again. So, yeah, I think we might have to record this one again, Leslie. I've been popping in and out there, but that's okay. So, realization that if you didn't change something, you would end up like your mum?
Well, I realized that if I didn't change something, that my children were going to lose their mother at a young age. Not that I would be young, but that my kids would be young. So I wasn't as concerned about my age as I was concerned about my children, going through so many years without their mother. And also I know how much my mother missed, because as I said, she died 2 weeks before my oldest was born, and that was her very first grandchild. My father, not my mother, but my father has 18 grandchildren. He's since passed on. But she missed 18 grandchildren. She missed all the graduations. She missed all the weddings. She missed all of the Mother's Days. And you know, I could just go on. And I'm sure some of your viewers also lost their mothers at an early age, and they can understand. But I didn't want my children to be where I am and be looking back thinking how much our mother missed. And so that was part of the determination that I was going to live the best life that I possibly could so that I could enjoy as much of life as life brought to me.
There was something there that you said. That you lost your mother at a young age, and she missed out on sharing those things with you and your family.
Right.
And that is the thing that you didn't want to happen to your family. So it's that really big connection for you, that emotional connection. And generally, as a rule, that's when you find deep within you that you have that ability to make those changes, when you have those sudden realizations up. Yeah. And you go, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to do something about it.
Well, just like, you know, so many great explorers and things. Shackelford is one that comes to mind. When we get really crystal clear on why we're doing something, everything else starts falling in place. And the best example or the best description of why, there's this movie Resistance. It just recently came out, and it's the story of Marcel Marceau and his part that he played in the in World War II, where he helped all these Jewish children escape from occupied France. Anyway, his father asked, "Why do you have to, you know, be a clown? Why is this so important to you?" And he asked his dad. He said, "Why do you go to the bathroom?" And the father's response was, "Because my body demands it." And I was like, that is it. When we get so honed in on why we are doing anything that is so 180 degrees, nothing is going to stop us because our body is demanding it. And that's the point that I reached those years back, is that my body was demanding that I make these changes, and it was going to keep demanding. And so as a consequence, what did that do for me? That means that when I order a hamburger, I get it without a bun. It means when I go to a restaurant and they have, you know, all the bread and the baked potato and all that, I will get vegetables instead. It means that when I'm here at home, I have cottage cheese and fruit and scrambled eggs, scrambled egg whites for breakfast. And it means all of those things because my body is demanding that I be the best me that I can be.
I really like that. One of the things that I shared was my biggest thing that I wanted to pass on last week when I was personally talking about a little snippet of my life. The body demands it of you. And it's true. So many times we say that I can't do something because I've got a sore knee or I've got sore shoulders, but there's so many other aspects of your body that you can still use, that you can with. you can still exercise when you have, for example, an injury. You can still exercise. You just need to know how to do that.
And that's where, being so crystal clear on your why, you will overcome any obstacle. And I started telling myself, for example, I hate to sweat. I mean, I will be real honest about that. I hate to sweat. I don't like to pant. I don't like to breathe hard. I don't like any of it. But I told myself, in order to be the best me, I needed to exercise so that I could be as strong as I possibly could. And I'm stronger now than I ever have been in my whole entire life, because I go to the gym, I work out, I lift the weights, I do the work. And on the days I don't want to do the work, I tell myself I am a person who goes to the gym. And so I go to the gym because I am a person who goes to the gym. I'm not a person who
Yes.
gives up and quits and all that stuff. No, I'm a person who goes to the gym. Now, I may not give it a full workout, but I still get a workout in because I am a person who goes to the gym. And it's just playing those, I hate to use the word playing, but it's having those conversations with yourself that will help you get to whatever goal it is you are trying to accomplish.
Yeah. There's so much in that. It's like telling yourself, it's an affirmation. You're actually saying, this is who I am. I am an exerciser. I am a healthy person. I am a healthy eater. And I honestly think that when you actually verbalize those things out loud, you actually change the energy in your reconfirming it for your body that is exactly who you are. And I've seen this on many occasions for women who have lost weight, but when they look at themselves in the mirror, they don't see that person. They still see the person who's carrying the weight around, because in their mind, they haven't actually told themselves that they are that healthier version of themselves. There's still that person behind. And that's where the work comes in, Leslie, isn't it? Where it's actually reconnecting with yourself and actually going, this is who I. So I know that for me, when I ask women, why is it that you want to be healthier and fit? You hear all the standard things, I want to be fit, I want to be flexible, I want to be strong, I want to be this. But it's not deep enough. You have to get deep, because when you get deep, then you get connected. And when you get connected, that's when you make the change. And that's when you believe it. And that's when you keep doing it. Even
I think you're back.
yeah.
But one of the things that I tell people, I mean, I love how you put that, but one of the things I tell people is sit down in a quiet place with pen and paper and start pouring out on the pen and paper, using the pen onto the paper, why you want to do this. Why do you want to go on this journey? And get so deep that tears are running down your face.
Yeah.
And do not stop until the tears are pouring down your face, because then you'll know that you've gotten to the real why you want to do this. The why that's going to get you up, the why that's going to keep you going, the why that's going to have you out there with PETA when it's pouring down rain and you're thinking this is crazy. No, it's a blast. I have rubber boots. I have a raincoat. I go out there sometimes without them. That when you are so clear, then you will overcome. No obstacle is too big. Everything becomes a pebble, and nothing is a Mount Everest. And so, anyway, as I said, I tell people, get just so tears running down your face, honest with yourself. Why? Because until you are not going to achieve what you think you want to achieve. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just be honest about it.
I really like that, Leslie. Yeah.
You know, because we don't want to set ourselves up to fail, but remember, fail is first attempt in learning. Fear, a lot of times people will say, I'm afraid I won't be able to do it. Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yes. And, yeah. So much gold in that. So much gold. And some great advice in that. Yeah, that's brilliant. One of the things that I personally like to do with that why is I know that for it can be too hard. And so I like to simplify it, to make it easier, to bring it back to something that's more manageable. So when it comes to thinking about your why, how I generally approach that is to grab out your journal and today write down 10, just 10 reasons why, just today. But tomorrow morning, you're going to write down another 10. And then the next day, you're going to write down another 10. And then the next day, you know, the categories or the patterns or the real reason. And I mean, I've had women who have written down to get Peter off my back. So as their last one. But I've also seen, you know, I want to get a letter from the Queen, you know, when I turn 100. All sorts of things. But when you actually start to break it down, when you look at their 50 reasons why, you can actually see they want to be dancing at their grandkids' weddings. They want to be involved in everything to do with their grandkids' lives. That's what gives them the spark. So that's their real motivating factor. You know, there's all those other lovely little things like getting Leslie, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Well, the only final thought that I would have is that the wisdom and the joy and everything that you bring to the community is just incredible. So anybody who is not taking advantage of that, please start taking advantage of it. Because if you're trying to really be the best version of you as you are living the second half of your life, not the last half, the second half of your life, you're missing out if you're not taking advantage of all the wisdom and the information that PETA is sharing with you. If anybody wants to know anything about me, they can find me on Facebook. I'm happy to chat. I love being in the community. I love getting to know you guys. Someday I will get to Australia. You guys don't bother coming here. It's not very exciting here.
I love the States.
But as long as you have Diet Coke over there, I am good. But anyway, I hope that one day I'll get over there and I can actually meet you guys. But it has been so fabulous, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. And I hope we do it again. I hope we do it again soon.
Oh, we definitely will, because we you know, I'll have a look at this recording and see what it's like. But if it's too choppy and piecey, we'll do a take 2 on it. That's for sure. Leslie, look, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. Leslie has written a book, everybody. So I just want to give a shout out to that. It's called You Can't Eat Love. So go check that book out. It's a really honest account that she's shared with us today. You're going to find in that book just more of those. So yeah, go check out that book. Thanks, Leslie, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I will see you again.
Okay, see you all soon. Bye, everybody. Bye, Leslie.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.